Hi everyone, we are team number 4. My name is Besa and my teammates are Kelly, Nick, Amelia, and Brian. The book we choose is The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, published in 2018. We picked this book because it explains how great teams work and what makes people feel safe, connected, and motivated, which fits perfectly with what we've been learning in this class. The purpose of the book is to show how strong team cultures are created and how everyday behaviors shape trust, communication, and performance. The book is written for leaders, teachers, students, coaches, and really anyone who wants to work with teams or want to understand how groups become successful. Today we will be sharing the key themes, real examples, and lessons we learned from the book and how they connect to the leadership in the real world.
Let's start with skill 1, build safety. Now, what does it mean to be safe? When I think of the phrase be safe, I think of my mom as I was leaving the house and she would say, be safe. So, in some ways, it can mean take care or don't get hurt. But when you really break it down, it means being cared for or having some harm reduction, belonging, or being accepted. Now, why does building safety matter? When we as people feel safe, we feel secure. And when we feel secure, we can start expanding out and doing things like being our authentic selves, speaking up, taking risks, and being honest. When this happens, more collaboration can take place. And when we collaborate, innovation happens. But now, how do we build safety? So, one way we can get started is active listening. This helps us show and encourage vulnerability. We can also, as future leaders, champion inclusion. We need to encourage open feedback and express appreciation constantly. We need to remain consistent in these behaviors to create a safe environment. But what happens if I don't build safety or don't prioritize safety in my place of work? So when that happens, people stop sharing ideas or concerns. Connections become weak and fail. Collaboration and engagement drops off, which means innovation starts to tank. And once you become an unsafe place, people start to leave. There is no loyalty that gets built up. So retention problems start to take place.
Skill 2 is focused on shared vulnerability. Chapter 7, the author shows how strong teams grow when leaders are open, honest, and willing to ask for help instead of acting perfect. The main lesson in this chapter is trust starts with vulnerability. Leaders don't build trust by knowing everything. They build trust by showing they need others. Examples from the book are from real story, and this is something that I really liked about the book. That was not just theory, it was with examples, like real life examples, and that kept me wanting to read more. So the chapter starts with a true story. United Flight 232 lost all of its control in the air, and the captain didn't pretend to know everything, but he was open and honest, and he was saying things like, anybody have any ideas? Tell me what you want and I'll help you. So they were communicating, the crew and the pilot, they were communicating very well together. And even though the plane crashed, 185 people still survived. And this helped them because they were communicating, they were honest, open, and fast. The other example is with a coach from San Antonio. He doesn't act like he's the perfect leader. He asks his players for feedback and ideas. This makes the team feel respected and connected as well, because he shows vulnerability players starting to open up, and this is how the team grows stronger. The other example is the Navy SEAL. How they say the strongest teammates are the one who keep asking for help first. So they share mistakes, they share their worries and weaknesses during their trainings. Instead of pretending everybody to just be tough, they are honest. And this helps to build trust, to act fast, and to work as a team. The reason why all this matter is that all three stories are asking for help, and they're showing that asking for help is not a weakness, it's a leadership. When leaders show honesty and they open up, the team feels safe, they work better together, and they perform better. Now moving into chapter 8, which is called the vulnerability loop. This chapter explains how trust is actually built inside a team. It doesn't start with being perfect. It starts when one person opens up, shares something honest, and the other person responds with honesty too. That back and forth creates a loop, and that's how the team become closer and stronger. In the book, they showed the example of the flight, the airplane story, where the captain admits that he didn't know what to do, and instead of acting like he had all the answers, everything, he actually asked his crew, anybody has any ideas? That moment of vulnerability opened the door for the whole team to work together and to solve the problem together. While reading this chapter, something that came to my mind that we learned through the class was in Remember the Titans, the short video clip that we watched. The team didn't start performing well until they start sharing personal stories. That's when the team shifted from storming to norming. We also learned in the class about authentic leadership. Leaders who admit mistakes and ask for help make their team feel safe. And that's exactly what we learned in this chapter. The main lessons was that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's actually something that creates trust faster than forced bonding activities and games. When team feels safe and are honest, that's how they share more ideas, how they solve problems faster and perform better. The Super Cooperators chapter explains why some teams become incredibly strong and work almost perfectly together. The main idea in this chapter is that great teams are not great because people are perfect. They are great because people are honest. They share mistakes, weaknesses, and fear openly. When people stop pretending and start being real, trust grows very fast. An example from the book is the Navy SEALs. We think they succeed because they're tough, they're strong, but in this book they show something deeper. SEALs teams are strong because they constantly support each other. In the book we read about a drill called Log PT, where the team lifts a huge 250-pound log. And if one person slips or one person gets tired, the other instantly adjusts to carry more weight. Nobody gets embarrassed, nobody gets left behind. Everybody pays attention and it's ready to step in, help. Another example from the book is the brain trust meetings. The book uses a Pixar as an example, where in their brain trust meetings, directors openly talk about everything what's wrong in their movies. They admit their flaws. They ask for honest feedback. No ego, no blaming. And this honesty feedback helps them to fix all the problem fast and to create better movies. All these examples in this chapter show one thing to me. They are open. When people are open, they admit mistakes, they ask for help, and that's how this team becomes stronger, fix problem faster, and they are more responsible. So overall, chapter 9 teaches us about team doesn't come perfect. The team comes from honesty, trust, and being real with each other. So in the culture code, the story from the plane, Pixar, the Navy SEALs, all these examples shows it showed to me how much honesty matters in team. These groups worked well because people felt safe to say anything like I'm struggling or I need help. They had that safe environment when one person opened up and the other supported them. This connects a lot to what we learn in this class in our weekly readings and the short videos that we watch. It is explained that the trust is key part of teamwork and leadership. So teams do better when members feel supported, when leaders communicate clearly, and when people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts, their ideas. And this is exactly what skill number 2 is teaching us.
To touch bases again on the Super Cooperators chapter, the Navy SEALs created Hell Week. It was designed to physically make people work together as a team, but on a more subconscious level. One of their PTs is where they take a log and they have to transfer it from one side of their head to the other. Sounds easy in practice, but the log is so big that one or two people can't do it by themselves. The whole team has to do it, and they have to do it in sync. Otherwise, the log falls and gets dropped, again, because the log is so large that a couple people can't handle it. To move on to creating cooperation in small groups, it's kind of a continuation. Dave Cooper was a Navy SEAL, and he graduated Hell Week. And in doing that, it kind of helped him on what he does. He creates a team bonding experience, but on a more personal level. He creates space where it's okay to talk without rank and allowing humility without recourse. He does this by, when he comes up with his plans, he'll lay out his ideas, but instead of forcing them upon his team, he'll ask his team to put pinholes throughout his ideas. How would you attack this? How would you change this? What would you do? And the idea is not necessarily to, again, throw out your rank and tell them this is what you're going to do, but he wants to make sure their plan is good. Everybody needs to have a good plan, and especially in their line of work, because it could come back and could be death. So he wants to make sure that everybody's as a person there, not necessarily as a rank telling somebody what to do and giving orders. And so, for example, people who come into his platoon aren't allowed to call him by sergeant or whatever he goes by. It's Dave or Cooper or Coop, just because, again, everything's on a personal level and the rank is not there. To refine this a little bit more, creating cooperation within individuals, Rashi Givechi leads her team through conversations and asking questions, but never being confrontational, and helping people to realize their potential. And what she does by this is she likes to bring everybody together, typically 3 times within a project, however long the project is. She'll do like a town hall meeting, and it's at the start, she'll do one in the middle, and then she'll do one at the very end. Throughout those, she likes to, conversate with her people, and if they're having issues with anything, all the conversations that she has, she knows where she wants to go with the conversation, but getting there, knowing everybody's different, every person needs to be spoken to differently, approached differently, she tries and just asks questions to kind of help the person through whatever they're going through. Questions like, you may have had an experience like this. You may have done this in the past. Just to kind of make it more personalized in whatever they're trying to do. And this ultimately will help the person realize what they're kind of going after, what Givechi is trying to help point them in the right direction. Again, without being confrontational and pulling out the boss card and telling them, what they need to do differently, etc.
Lesson 4 from the Culture Code is about establishing purpose, which is one of the most important skills for successful teams. Purpose overall gives a team direction and meaning. It helps everyone know not just what they're doing, but why it matters. According to Daniel Coyle, purpose is not built with a single speech or mission statement, but it's created through simple and repeated signals that guide behavior every day. Coyle explains that this idea with the quote, creating engagement around a clear, simple set of priorities can function as a lighthouse, orienting behavior and providing a path towards a goal. This is a powerful image. A lighthouse guides ships safely to shore, even in darkness or storms. In the same way, clear priorities guide a team towards their goals. The lighthouse doesn't shine once and disappear. It is steady and consistent. When reflecting, a team's priorities needs to be visible and repeated so everyone knows where to focus, especially when things get complicated or stressful. Purpose works best when it's simple and clear, which is a main point in this lesson. Teams only need a few priorities, usually 3 to 5, that everyone can remember and understand. These priorities should be used in a daily work, for example, mentioned in meetings, reinforced in feedback, and lastly shown through leaders' actions. When this happens, purpose becomes part of the team's culture. It is no longer just words, it affects how people act, make decisions, and work together. Another key idea Daniel Coyle mentions is the purpose in experience. When leaders and team members repeatedly show what matters, everyone internalizes it. Team members begin to act with focus and intention, helping each other reach the same goals. This consistent reinforcement is what makes some teams high-performing while others struggle. In the end, establishing purpose is about giving teams clear direction, making it visible, and embedding it into everyday work. Like a lighthouse guiding a ship, a strong purpose keeps a team focused, aligned, and moving towards success, even when challenges appear. This quote perfectly captures the idea that purpose is both the guide and the anchor of a team.
The last part of the Culture Code is around establishing purpose. One of the big points of this is creating the purpose or story it takes to unite and drive teams and to drive high performance. And we can see this through multiple examples in the last couple chapters. We start with Johnson & Johnson and their return to the credo to save Tylenol. They were at a spot in their business where no one was really following the credo. They weren't sure if it was something that was important to them. And along came an issue where someone was poisoning civilians with Tylenol by adding cyanide. And rather than turn away from it, they got back to their roots. They got back to that credo and to the fact that, their customers come first, citizens come first, health comes first. And they ate the losses. They admitted their mistakes and issues, and they worked with the government to come up with solutions and create one of the biggest and best turnarounds in history that's used to this day. We can see Mountain Medical, a small medical team, somewhat of the underdog, learning a new medical procedure and showing that, by having that drive and that passion for teamwork and working together versus, a high-performing hospital that just looked at it as another procedure they need to learn. They were able to outperform and perform the procedure faster and better and more consistently than the other hospitals. And it was just through that understanding that they're there to support each other, and it's a team effort, not the surgeon or the anesthesiologist. It's everyone working together. We have Danny Meyer, who creates an environment of home, family, and warmth, not just for his customers, but for his associates. And that's what drives all of his restaurants to be extremely successful versus some of the restaurants that are just, go in, do your thing. He drives a system and a culture of making sure that everyone walks in, feels welcome, warm. The associates know to pick up on small cues and keep track of what their customers want, so they can provide the best experience possible, and do that together as a team, right? By knowing that they're there to serve the customer and they do it best by working together. And finally, we go to Pixar, and Catmull built systems to drive creativity and innovation by bringing everyone together. Everyone was in silos, different floors, and he brought everyone together to make them realize, you guys are working together as a team. We're making a story. We're not making a movie. And we need to create that together from the very beginning. Through the section of establishing purpose, there's kind of this underlying consistent system for how to drive it, and it really drives on these small consistent signals to create that purpose. It's not created with a big initiative or a big speech or anything. It's the small, consistent things that happen on a daily, monthly, weekly basis to drive and create these cultures. A great example of this is teachers in California public schools were essentially tricked by a fake study into thinking that certain students were more likely to achieve better results, higher IQ, just be smarter, and they were just randomly selected students. But just by thinking they're more capable, those daily interactions, the little bit more attention to detail they gave to those kids, maybe supporting them when they failed on an assignment, or taking time when they're having a bad day, it showed that they actually achieved double what the students they weren't providing that attention to. And it's those small interactions that happen on an everyday basis through the year. Great example was Portugal. Trying to avoid hooligans, these soccer hooligans that were terrorizing Europe in the early 2000s. And they did this by, not lining up a huge battalion of riot police, but by going after it with small social cues. They actually rolled back, sent police out in nothing but a vest, and told them to, essentially get along with them a little bit. Do small things to dial down the situation rather than escalate it. A great example was, don't go and take the soccer ball from them. Wait till the soccer ball comes to you and just hold on to it, and it de-escalates the situation. And it ended up being a complete reversal of previous European Cups where there was riots and tons of issues. And instead, there was almost no excessive interaction, and the only couple areas where they did have more violent interactions were where those police forces still, utilized the riot gear and the very aggressive nature, and really just set the standard for how to deal with riots moving forward. Once again, Danny Meyer, an entire chapter kind of dedicated to his success in restaurant and really that culture he drives, and it's same thing. It's those small interactions. He purposely builds very specific catchphrases and drives them consistently to create the environment and the culture that the team wants to use, and then just intentional, consistent training, especially at the beginning. But continued training and team buildings for the team to really understand that the culture that they want to be in. And going back to Pixar and Catmull, really just allowing teams to fail and support them through it. This, it's maybe not so much on a daily thing, but it's just that consistency of not giving up in the system, right? When he took over Disney, Disney didn't turn around overnight. He took over in 2006. It was well into the 2010s, before they really started, finding their rhythm and hitting their success, and just standing behind the team, really just bringing that culture of everyone needs to work together in the same space on teams, and it's not always going to be right, but eventually they're going to find their way, and by doing these small consistent signals, that's how we establish purpose. I think it would be hard to find a book that applies to leadership as much as the Culture Code, maybe in different areas, but I think from the beginning of this book and reading through all the stories and examples in this book, it really shows, and companies understand this more and more, and I can even speak from my personal experience, that companies understand that culture is what drives success. You can have the smartest people in the room and still fail if you have poor culture. And I've been part of both bad and good cultures, so I can see the value that it brings. And the most important thing is leaders are 100% responsible for that culture. All right, it's not the associates. They have to be part of the culture, but leaders are responsible for defining it, implementing it, and sustaining that culture. And like I've mentioned in previous slides, it doesn't happen overnight. It's an every day, every week, every month activity that needs to come from the leader. So some specific things that we can do in each of the sections. So in safety, to drive that safety, that safe feeling for the associates, it's utilizing belonging cues, such as eye contact when we're talking to them, or even just meeting them for the first time of the day, and active listening. Really take a moment, step back, don't think about adding value to the conversation or talking over them. There's plenty of times as a leader we just need to step back and we need to listen, and really listen 100%. Look for those body language and other cues that can tell us the whole story that they might not be telling us. And then I think something personal for me is just really supporting and celebrating failures. We work at so many places where everyone's so scared to fail, and because of that, we're never going to see really that high performance. We're never going to see development. We're never going to see innovation. So by supporting and celebrating failures, we as leaders can provide that safe environment where people feel that they can work to their best level and not be afraid if it doesn't work all the time. To build vulnerability, first things first, we need to be able to admit our own mistakes. We saw throughout this book there was multiple times. Pixar said, they built the wrong building. Danny Meyer admitted mistakes running his first 2 restaurants. And really, as a leader, we need to feel comfortable to be able to make mistakes and admit those mistakes to our associates. And also, don't be afraid to ask for support. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to know. As a leader, we do not need to be the subject matter expert, right? That should be someone on our team, and we should be asking them for support when and where it's needed. And then, same thing, just inviting that feedback. Don't be afraid to, be vulnerable ourselves, and we might not be happy with some of the things we hear, but if we're going to ignore that, we're never going to create a good culture. So we need to be able to sit down, invite that feedback. Here are some of the issues that we may be causing for the team or for other departments, and be willing to improve on that. And finally, establishing purpose. We can start first and foremost by really naming and ranking our priorities to our team and departments or our associates, to make just very clear what that North Star is, or what those goals are, because a lot of times there's a lot of things going on, priorities shift, priorities change. We need to have those few that are crystal clear, this is what we need to accomplish. And then, as I mentioned before, it's the consistent signals. Culture is not built overnight. We have to just be consistent. Like, we have to define the culture that we want to build, and we need to be driving it every single day. It is not a team staff meeting and we're good to go for the year. This is daily, weekly, during one-on-one staff meetings, daily meetings, whatever it is. We need to be driving that culture and those signals for that purpose, and consistently remind our team of that.
Now, let's talk about Team 4's take. So what this book meant to each of us. Bessa thought that the book was eye-opening. There were passages on safety and vulnerability that she found the most impactful. She was quoted saying, "The book made me think about how I show up in teams as a student, a mom, and someone who works with different groups of people all the time." Nick thought the book was great. He can be quoted saying, "I liked that it not only had several good examples, but the examples were from a wide range of career fields, which means it made it clear that teamwork is applicable everywhere." Brian thought that the book did a great job explaining how to build and change culture. He said, quote, "It has provided many examples of how I can apply small everyday gestures as well as long-term mindset to consistently improve the culture in my team." Amelia said that the book was insightful. She says, quote, "Culture is something that leaders build intentionally, and I think the real-world stories make the lessons easy to apply in not just school, but also work and everyday life." Finally, Kelly, myself. I thought the book was a nice read. I listened to it while I was commuting back and forth to work, and I recognized in the morning that I could go ahead and apply what I was learning on my commute. To me, the building safety section was very eye-opening, and it gave me insights on how to contribute to a better culture in the workplace and out.
We can now take a closer look at the strengths and weaknesses of the Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, along with some suggestions for improvement. Starting with the strengths, one of the book's biggest advantages is its clear three-part framework. Coyle organizes high-performing group culture into 3 skills: building safety, sharing vulnerability, and establishing purpose. The framework is simple, memorable, and easy to follow. Another strength is the book is practical and easy to apply. The advice is full of tips and simple rules that teams can start using immediately. You don't need to be a manager to benefit from the ideas. The book also uses engaging real-world stories. Coyle draws examples from organizations like Pixar and the Navy SEALs. These stories make the concepts vivid and easy to understand, showing how theory works in practice. Finally, the book is research-backed. Coyle integrates insights from psychology, neuroscience, and group dynamics without overwhelming the reader and giving credibility to his recommendations. On the other hand, the book is not without weaknesses. Some sections feel surface level, while the ideas are practical. They are not always explored in depth or supported by detailed evidence. In addition, some examples can feel repetitive or dated, since many of the organizations highlighted were at their peak years a long time ago. Lastly, the book has limited critical perspective, focusing mainly on success stories with fewer examples of failure or what doesn't work. To address these weaknesses, the book could benefit from a few improvements. First, it could add more scientific explanation to show why certain behaviors and practices actually work. Secondly, it could include more diverse examples from fields like education, nonprofits, and global cultures to broaden its applicability. Finally, the readers who want to explore further, it's helpful to pair this book with companion resources such as Leaders. Overall, the Culture Code is an engaging and highly practical guide to building strong group culture. While it has more limitations, its strengths make it a vulnerable resource, and the suggested improvements can help readers gain an even deeper understanding of successful teams.
To recap the 3 main skills within this book, we'll start with skill 1, building safety. This involves creating a culture where people are appreciated for who they are, where people feel that they are secure and that they are valued, building people up and treating people as people. Secondly, sharing vulnerability. This is where people are welcomed to be open and take risks without repercussions. This is where you're able to bring those crazy ideas to the table in hopes to be innovative or disruptive within an industry. Lastly is establishing purpose. This is about clearly defining the goals of the group and how everyone contributes to that goal. This is about showing everyone that they're not just a cog in the machine, but rather a necessity to success. All of these together will create a unified team that trusts one another to do their part and get the job done. All of these examples are proof that the ideas behind these skills work, regardless if it's for a professional basketball team or even the Navy SEALs. I hope you enjoyed our slideshow on the Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, and we thank you for watching.